But I will say, after being on the road, I think I've been in, some of you that know me that are in here, I've been on I think 14 different locations in the last 4 weeks. So COVID was starting to look pretty damn good. A little break. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot what it's like to be home. Well, thank you for attending the breakout. My name is Yano. For those who don't know me, I'm the CEO of a company called RYNO Strategic Solutions. We've been working with the trades for now 14 straight years, only doing internet marketing for you. 14 straight years. So I'm also the host of a podcast called To The Point Home Services Podcast. If you have any podcast listeners in the house. Thank you, that's very nice. But it's exciting to be back here. I mean, Lennox has brought me back again, so I must be doing something okay, because I know I toe the line. Like, I'm always in the gray area, so the fact they bring me back again says something. So maybe I've broken the seal there. But anyhow, I'm grateful that you're here. Alex?
I'm Alex Bannister, and I've been with Lennox for about 4.5 years now. I am a marketing specialist for the Premier Dealer and CAT program. So excited to have you guys with us today.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Chris.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a couple things here, and that is how to get attention. So clearly I'll dive into that a little bit more, but really it is using the power of attention, because really we're all trying to get it in one way, shape, or form. Okay, the first thing is how to get attention. This is actually the easiest part of the attention game, right? Because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is just gain as much influence as you can. The only reason a company like mine exists, a marketing company, is to bring in customers for you guys. And you always want the most amount of leads for the least amount of what? Money. Never changes. It's weird. And so we have to figure out how to accommodate those things. So the best thing I can do here, and Alex and I will be able to accomplish in this particular breakout, is give you some solid takeaways that you got no excuse to not implement. Fair enough? Like minimal to no cost whatsoever. So there's not even any excuses, okay? But we're going to share a few things with you that we know are best practices to help move the business forward. The paying attention side of it is probably the more difficult side of things. So once we get attention, you gain new customers, you have good recruiting efforts, you bring in new employees, you gotta start paying attention to all the numbers. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the last 2 years specifically, the whole M&A world, private equity world, has gotten really insane, really crazy. I know we had 18 of my contractors that were purchased last year. And I've seen the multiples on those things, and I understand it. But every one of these guys, and even some of our most successful contractors, are implementing the things I'm going to tell you. Paying attention to lead source. To me, I don't care about what feels good or what we think is good. I want to know. I want to know facts. We can build a business based on facts, right? You look at your numbers, you look at your bottom line, you know when you're making money, when you're not making money. My business is no different. I'm trying to make sure, am I actually executing? And how do we do those things? Am I executing at a reasonable cost per lead? So I'm going to give you some tools, and there's actually 2 main tools you'll be able to take away from this and implement to do everything I'm about to tell you. Is that cool? All right. So first and foremost, you've had multiple options to pick from. I know Alex and I are grateful that you chose ours, so thank you. Some of you came here just to support us out of pity. We appreciate that too. But I promise you it'll be a good time. I'll make it as funny as I possibly can. But thank you for choosing this, and then to any of the Lennox folks that are in the house, thank you again for bringing me back on board. Alex, this is our first time presenting together, so she's going to crush it. But we have a few RYNO customers in the house, some RYNO customers in here, so thank you. I'm super grateful for you, and I am proud of this. I'm going to share it. So we're doing some live podcasts at the expo. I didn't do any this morning because really I needed to save my voice for this breakout because I've been doing a bunch of them the last few weeks. But my heart is for the trades. So when I launched this podcast, a gentleman by the name of Gary Vaynerchuk, I've had the luxury of having a partnership with him the last 3 years. He pushed me in 2019 to launch this podcast for home services specifically, and it was to share things just like we're going to do today, over and over again. Every single week an episode rolls out. So we brought on some of the biggest contractors in the United States of America, some of them that are customers of mine, some of them that are friends of mine, to share all the things they've done along the way in hopes that you could listen to it, take some things away, and implement them in your business. And I think that's happened quite a bit. So much so that this says 19, it's now number 18 overall in the entire world of overall marketing podcasts is the To The Point Home Services podcast, and it's home services specific. So super proud of finally hitting number 18. Bringing some, thank you. Bring some exposure to the home services industry, because guess what? We're essential businesses. Like, you can't even survive without essential businesses, right? So that was what's great about the pandemic coming from that. But thank you. Appreciate you guys being here. So first thing I'm going to do is Just kind of jump into my 95-5 rule. Who in here has ever heard me talk about the 95-5 rule? Raise your hand. Perfect, a few of you. So you understand what this is going to be. I share it every time because after 14 years of doing exactly this, this still applies. So the 95-5 rule is this. You come to these meetings, you sit here, you go to the different breakouts, you go see new products, you go and meet vendors, you have all these things that you're getting, you're gathering all this knowledge, you're here with your team, which could be some team building aspect of all this. You sit in this breakout because maybe this was the least suckiest option that you want to choose from or whatever it is, just having real talk here. But whatever it is, you're in the room. You took the time away from your family, your kids, your employees, all these things to hopefully get better. Otherwise, why'd you come here? Maybe just to grab an award and leave? I mean, you're already here. You might as well try and learn something new. So what I've learned over 14 years of doing this is that 95% of you sitting in this room right now will do absolutely nothing with what I tell you, even though I'm telling you it's a fact that if you implement one thing, it'll move your business forward with no additional cost. Because all the biggest and baddest players are doing it. Not even just the biggest, just the guys who get it, the ladies who get it and implement it in their business. But yet 95% of you sitting in this room will still do nothing with it. Nothing. Which is what makes the other 5% become the most successful contractors. They are the ones that go back and at least try and implement something. Even if you go back and you try and implement something and it doesn't work the way you thought it would, change it and try it in a different way, but don't give up. It's too easy to go back and get right back in the routine of doing the same thing once you get back, because when you're gone, you got emails piling up or calls piling up or whatever it is. It's no excuse. You came here, we're gonna give you facts to make your business better. Be a 5%er. Be different. Let's get rid of this 95% crap, all right? Be 5%ers. You're sitting in here and we'll give you some good nuggets to take away from it. And something that I always share with my team, if nothing else, I have them put it on their office walls. You know, we have roughly 140 employees today, which is incredible if anybody has to manage a lot of employees. You know how hard that work is? That's difficult. Anybody hires Gen Z? That's even different. I have Gen Z kids. That's even harder. But everything I say to them, regardless of what they're doing, same thing with my employees, is ambition without action is useless. It's the simplest thing that if you're a visionary person, I like to see something as a constant reminder, right? I've got all these good ideas. I'm ADD. I don't know if anybody else is ADD. But I have to be able to hyper-focus on things. Ambition without action is what? It's useless. So let's get into it.
That's right. So let's go ahead and talk about how you can get attention utilizing the 6 B's of marketing. So you're all in the same space, right? You either own an HVAC company or work for one, and depending where your business is located, you have a lot of competition in your market, right? So, and we know that attention is a crucial component of an effective marketing campaign. And today, consumers are bombarded with the amount of information overload they receive. So you really have to be strategic about how you get attention of your customers. So what are you doing differently today to set yourself apart from your competition? So Chris will talk through the 6 B's of marketing and some unique strategies that other businesses have used that made them stand out from the crowd. So.
Yeah, really what we're trying to do is get a return on influence. That's the game that you're in. So like right up front, that's what we're trying to do is how much influence can I get? Meaning, how do you set yourself apart from your competitors because you're all doing the same thing? So if somebody's looking for a heating and air conditioning company, at its core, you all do the same thing. What are you going to make them do to choose you? Like before you can even get to your value proposition, what are you going to do to make them choose you? Return on influence. It's got to be greater than the service that you offer. So has anybody in here ever heard of Simon Sinek before? He had a really a life-changing TED Talk that listen, I've got a short attention span, so it was only 15 minutes long, so I could even do it. But it changed how I ran my business. And it starts with why. Because what you do has to be so much greater than the actual service, and it has to be significantly greater than just a transaction. So what's the purpose of your business? People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So think about that. You know, you might say, well, we're better than, like I'll hear all the time, well, I'll pull up a top competitor report and I'll show you, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, these guys suck. They have horrible customer service. Until you've experienced that person, you have no idea like what to expect from them, right? So you have to do something to put yourself out there, to do something to gain influence, all right? So that's the game that we're in. So one of the things that I can relate to, because stories are good, and is that I had anybody in here ever heard of the band Linkin Park before? Raise your hand. Linkin Park, pretty decent sized band. So I had the luxury and the benefit of being friends with Chester, the guy you see on the screen, for a lot of years. And I can remember specifically a story that he was telling me when we were leaving Phoenix. I hopped on they had a concert in Phoenix going to Tucson. I'm based in Phoenix, Arizona. And Chester, this was like 2000. He says to me, we're having like a deep conversation because that's what he did. He says to me like the hardest time in his life was all the way through like late elementary school into middle school into high school. And the thing was he never felt like he fit in. So what he was trying to do was he thought, well, I'm gonna start dressing like these guys do because then I can fit in. He actually didn't come from a poor family, he came from like a good middle class family. He was just trying to do all these things to fit in. He knew he was different. So, they go and party, he would go and party. Like he was doing all these things that wasn't him. And he said that like his life was miserable. So even though maybe on the surface it seemed like things were good for him, he was living a miserable life. And it wasn't until the time when he was like, you know what? Like I'm done trying to be like everybody else. I'm gonna go back to being my own artistic, confident self and just do me. And so he wrote a song that was called Numb, if you remember it, where it says, all I want to do is be more like me and less like you. That's what that's coming from. Is once he decided to be himself, even though there's a lot of other singers out there, once he decided to be himself was when he really started to hit and skyrocket. And then he rolled out this amazing album called Hybrid Theory, and it became like Linkin Park's monster album, and they crushed it. He set himself apart from everybody else who was doing the same thing he was, all these other musicians. Like that's a hard game to be in. But he did it. He stopped trying to be like everybody else and tried to just be more like himself. And that's what I'm going to hope to get out of you guys here today is to push you to maybe think outside the box a little bit because you all do the exact same thing. But the simplest way to do it, the most tactical way to do it is to talk about my 6 P's of marketing. So again, these are facts that start with the foundation of 4 P's, right? I added the other 2 on my own. So anybody who's in marketing or has a marketing company, this particular slide right here is something that I want you to take back and make sure that all 6 P's apply, right? Because I promise you, even if you go back and just implement one that's missing, it's gonna move the business forward and it's not gonna cost you anything to do it. Maybe if you have to pay your web team to add it to your site, it's worth it. But the first P is product. I don't know why we insist on making people guess what we do. So if your name is ABC Mechanical, ABC Home Services, does that really say everything that you do? No. And guess what? When somebody goes to their website and they're looking for a heating and air conditioning contractor on their phone, or if it's even on desktop, which by the way, you still gotta pay attention to that, you cannot make them scroll to try and figure out what you do. There's no reason to because a lot won't do it. Think about it. Speed's a necessity, right? Like, why do you think these cell phones work so well? We can get things done faster. Product, don't make them guess what you do. Heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical. Okay, that's the first P. Second P, place. I don't care how long you've been in business. If you've been in business 50 years, I promise you there's new people in town. Why are we gonna make them guess where you do business? All right, make sure it's crystal clear right at the top. Like, look at these examples. It could be something as simple as serving residents of Louisville, Kentucky and surrounding areas. At least now they know that you do heating and air conditioning in Louisville, Kentucky, heating and air conditioning in Orlando, Florida. So the third P is typically the most controversial P, and that's price. Does anybody in here share price on their website right now? Raise your hand. It's a scary one to share. So all I'm here to do is to share with you tactics that others are using successfully. Now here's my talk on price. I don't care whether you put price on your website or not, but it works for some. The price, putting a price on there isn't a race to the bottom. I'm not telling you to put the cheapest price on your site. It can be a starting from price. How many times you get phone calls and people are saying, hey, can you send somebody, or can you give me a ballpark? And you never give a ballpark. You gotta send somebody out there to get the ballpark. And do they call back? Let's hope so. You know they're calling other companies. You know that's what they're doing. So I started thinking, well, let's just start putting a starting from price, raise it, and see how it works. I mean, I'm talking like 6-7 years ago doing this and studying it month over month, year over year. You could put a starting from price on there, and now you've at least given a ballpark of a starting from price. You know when you get in there, it's gonna be based on what you're putting in, what their financing could potentially be, whatever it is. It's just setting the hook. We're just trying to get the attention, all right? The win is far greater. So I've seen it win. Now, obviously, once you pick up the phone, you gotta prove all the value in the world, right? But at least you've given something. And I started to notice the conversion rates were higher on people that were using price. So something to think about. It's not a race to the bottom. It's just a starting from price. All right, if you don't want to do that, the easy alternative option is the fourth P, and that's promotion. This is the easiest one to do. And Alex and I will talk a little bit about it, but first I want to just share with you, there's a lot of different ways you can use promotions, and we'll get into it a little bit later, but this is the easiest one. I love the financing opportunity. We'll hit on that in just a minute. So the fifth P is the one that I've added in because it makes sense to me, it matters to me, and that's people. If you're using a marketing company now and they don't really understand HVAC or plumbing, you need to make sure you know somebody understands how your customer thinks. What I've had to do over the years is become a psychologist and trying to think through, okay, I know what your customer is going to ask before they even go to your website, so how can I solve all their objections before they ever even pick up the phone to call you? That's the game I'm in. At 14 years, that's the game I'm playing, is how do I try and bring in the most amount of leads for the least amount of money? All right, so in order to do that, I got to make sure I understand the thought process of your customers as they evolve. But I know your business. The best way to find out if your marketing company or marketing person knows the HVAC industry, ask them what a heat pump is. See what their answer is. That's usually a good indicator to figure out if they really know their shit or not in the HVAC space. So to me, though, the last one is probably the most fun, and thankfully, because of COVID, we've seen a good deal of people increase on this last one, and the last one is personality. So if anybody's seen me give this presentation before, I think that the last Lennox Live I presented at, I shared a video from Kmart. Does anybody remember the Kmart video I shared? Ship your pants. It was a good way of Kmart set themselves apart. Ship your pants, okay? So we're clear. But during COVID, what was awesome is a lot of people had to start trying new things that they hadn't necessarily done or were comfortable doing. And social media is a great place to do that, to kind of test it out maybe before you throw it on your website. But video is great. People were using it more. Your back was against the wall. You had to try new things to set yourself apart. You had to try new things to bring in customers. Like, shit got weird in March of 2020, didn't it? It got real weird. Like, I was sitting there for 2 weeks trying to figure things out too. Like, whoa, what's happening? So I would encourage you guys to give the business a personality. And I thought the best thing to do is I love funny videos, but there's more options than that. So I figured I'd just share a couple with you as some examples to kind of give you an idea of what you can do to set your business apart.
To know the way ahead, you have to remember where you started. At Kalen's, our story began 100 years ago with a simple idea of helping the people of our communities. It was the vision of those who came before us that led us to where we are today. 3 generations of good, honest work. A lot of things change in 100 years, but it's the things that remain the same that matter the most. The individuals who represent Kalen's today carry with them the same dedication as those who came before them, continuing the Kalen's legacy with pride. The history lives on within our people, and the way we treat our customers is just as memorable now as it was 100 years ago. We look forward to the next 100 years of Kalen's indoor comfort.
So what did they use there? What tactic was that? Warm and fuzzy, tenure, they've been around a long time. Like, it's a different approach. It doesn't always have to be funny. This is trying to build that trust, the credibility. They've been around a long time. You're not in business that long if you're not doing a good job, if you're not reputable. That's what they were going after. Is the video long? Yeah, it's a little too long. I'd say you want to stick to more like that 60-second video, but it worked, and it worked well. So another option is, and this was kind of out there, but it worked. So anybody in here watch the Super Bowl? Raise your hand high so I can see you. All right, thank you. Everybody else rooted for the Bengals too, like I did? Nobody a Bengals fan, but everybody wanted the Bengals to win. They had a phenomenal commercial play, and I'm going to see who in here actually paid attention to that commercial. So this is probably the greatest comeback story in all of the history of comebacks, and it is the QR code. I know you want me, you know I want you. Does anybody remember this commercial that played? Okay, be honest. Who scanned it? Raise your hand. Thank you for being honest. I scanned it too. I couldn't help myself. So even though that's out there, it is it worked so incredibly well. It broke down the Coinbase website. It shut it down. It got scanned so many times. So I'm not telling you to do that, but they were thinking outside the box. I mean, that was like a $4 million commercial. Something crazy like that, but it worked. I scanned it too. Couldn't help myself. But that is the QR code not like the best comeback story in the history of comeback stories? Think about it. How much did you hate those things and never use them 3 years ago? Then you go into a restaurant and like, just hand me a damn paper menu, please. I'm sick of scanning this code. Now it's like everywhere. You see them everywhere you go. You're on the back of some of the shirts. But it was thinking outside the box and it worked. And then of course, I would be remiss if I didn't share the follow-up to Ship My Pants. Because it worked so incredibly well for Kmart. Does anybody remember what Kmart was like known for? What was their like main promotion? Blue Light Special. They were trying to get away from that. All right, so that's when the Ship My Pants commercial came out. And then they followed up with this beauty.
Ugh, I hate these big-ass prices.
Sounds like you could use some big-ass savings.
I'd love some big-ass savings.
Kmart Shop Your Way members save 30 cents a gallon.
30 cents a gallon? That's a big-ass discount.
Big-ass discount.
A really big-ass discount.
Really big-ass discount.
Honey, this solves your big-ass problem.
Totally solves my big-ass problem.
Dad, look at that big-ass truck.
Big-ass man.
Hello, big-ass man.
Shop Your Way members get big-ass savings. Save 30 cents a gallon when you spend $50 or more at Kmart.
Ugh,
I mean, it's funny. It works, right? Like, come on. It's just a play on words, but it's something different. See? Everybody starts to laugh and giggle a little bit about it because it actually works. But that personality side of it is something that I'm encouraging you to do. It will be well received. So I want to go back into this promotions piece of it because there's a little bit more detail in here too, but I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Alex to talk about a few in the beginning.
Sure. So a great way, right, to get attention is also to be strategic about the promotions and services that you offer. Did you know that most Americans do not have cash to pay for a major HVAC job, right? It's 69% of them have less than $5,000 in their savings, and 39% do not have any savings at all. That's scary. Monthly payments meet customer expectations, right, of how to pay for their expenses. In fact, 72% of consumers think that monthly payments will be better, a more convenient option for them. But unfortunately, 69% of those were not offered a monthly payment when they're purchasing the HVAC equipment. So our industry's not there yet, right? But offering finance is really important. And for us, you should be offering financing because it helps you increase close rates between 10 to 20%. And it also helps you increase your average ticket price by $2,000 over a cash job. So really make sure that you're making a big splash of your financing options and services you. So these stats over here that I just shared, right, not only show that consumers need financing today, but financing is really good for your overall business profitability. So again, put it out there, stand out from the crowd. But financing is not the only example, right, or promotion you can use or utilize. Another good one is warranty. For example, extended warranties are becoming a trend throughout all consumer markets, right? Because they can help consumers save them from the expected, charges for repairs, and provide them a security, safety, and overall peace of mind. So many of you, if you are finding out that labor warranties can be a great closing tool and can assist you, right, during the sale. So making sure you're advertising those warranties too. That's not something you see very often, and it's something that consumers are looking for.
Okay,
Right?
yeah, I totally agree. So financing is a great one to use. It's always a great hook, especially if you do straight up install business. So it always works great. The as low as monthly price, I'm going to give you a little extra credit nugget here too, is when we were running these ads during COVID, because social media really blew up and it was easy to run financing offers, I was trying to find the threshold of how low do you go on the monthly to actually get this person who can pass a credit check and actually you could put the unit in. Because if you run a financing offer that starts as low as $49 a month, I mean, one, is that really the customer that you want? You might get 100 leads from that because the number's so low, but guess what? You drive there, so there's your gas, there's your time you go. They can't even pass the credit check to put the unit in anyway. So who cares about the lead if they can't spend any money with you to do it? That's not the game that I'm in. I know it's not the game that you're in. So I started playing around with that number, trying to figure out what's the right number. So based on what we've learned, and everything that I use is based on facts, numbers, that is, do not go anything less than $89 a month. Okay, that's like the threshold that you do not want to go any lower than that. So some of you can use that, use a lower number. Maybe it works better for you. I'm just saying based on what I've seen, that's the low number where you still get enough lead volume and the booking rate and actual acquisition is still high enough that it makes sense. It's profitable for you. So that's the number. But there's lots of ways that you can do this too. Like, Alex mentioned warranty. That's great stuff to use. I'm a big fan of speed to service because next to financing offers or savings, they want to know how quick can you get there, right? Like I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. If it's 120 degrees, and it's a no cool deal. Like we need to get there fast, so speed to service matters, all right? Same day service, next day service. But I'll tell you this, do not promote that and then not actually offer it. Because then you're going to get blown up on negative reviews because people will leave you a negative review before they leave you a positive review. You guys know the drill. So, but if you can legit do it, you should promote that. Like right up front that you can get there next day. If you're doing any of the trade-in type of stuff, like those unique offers, did anybody put any of these no-contact service call badges on their websites during the COVID stuff? Yeah, so I think 2 weeks in, once we kind of figured out what was going on, I thought, you know what? The homeowners are still going to need us. Everybody's going to be home more. They want to be safe. So by the end of March, I had this no contact service call badge put on all of our customers' websites. And guess what happened with conversion rates? People started booking more of my customers because they had that little badge on there that showed that they were going to be safe. It's the psychology game of understanding what the homeowner needs. So then what we did, because I'm a big fan of giving back, is I took that and I gave this to about 12,000 other contractors that weren't customers of ours to put on their websites to go and do the same because we all kind of needed some help going through that whole phase. The point was it was a promotion, it was a promo that worked based on safety, okay? But want to make sure that you have your specials, like a specials button if you don't have it featured there. Financing options. I love being able to get a credit app filled out and a pre-approval sent to you before you walk into the customer's house. That's always a fun one to get done. If you're a woman-owned business or a woman-run business, we have about 13. They're all incredibly successful, and they put themselves at the forefront, and it works really well for them. Same thing if you're a premier dealer. You want to use that. You want to lean on that credibility. Your Better Business Bureau ratings, like don't even get me started with like Yelp and Better Business Bureau. Like throw it on there, but leave it at that. But use something to kind of help. It could be a new product, whatever it is. And then the last thing I'll tell you is, even though you may not like it, you got to make sure that you have every way for somebody to contact you on there. Whether you want to get a text message or not, I promise you, if you don't have that as an option, you're losing business. Fact. 100% that's a fact. All right, chat platform, all right? Another platform people are using. Obviously, if somebody doesn't, there's a lot of people that don't want to talk to you at all, so they're just going to submit contact forms. I'm okay with that. I'm not offended, as long as you're actually responding to it quickly and booking it. But it's an option, so you need to have any way that somebody can contact you available on your website. So a quick recap just on getting attention. So at the simplest form, the best way to get attention is utilize the 6 Ps: product, place, price, promotion, people, and personality. Don't be afraid to give your business a personality. Now, the second half of this is, when we got to get attention, right? Or we got to pay attention to the leads that's coming in. We got to pay attention to your performance, both your marketing performance, but also internal performance. Like there's all these vitals that you have to have in place. So I'm only in the digital space. I don't do any traditional media whatsoever, none of that type of stuff. I don't intend on it unless y'all know somebody that's wanting to sell their business that's reasonably priced. I would consider it. But I like to focus on all things digital because I can track everything. And that way when I share it with you, you know everything that's happening to the dollar. So obviously anything that comes through that website, you should be tracking to this day, like anything. And so the best way that you guys can do this is just by using a simple call tracking phone number. Like this is pretty basic today. Everything that I'm about to tell you, you can all pull from a call tracking number and a human being listening to it. Not a piece of software listening for keyword triggers, a human being. Big difference. All right, if you're running a pay-per-click campaign, how many of you run a pay-per-click campaign in here and swear to never do it again because it sucked and it was brutal and it cost a lot? I'm here to tell you that the biggest winner in pay-per-click campaigns is Google. But if they're ran right, you can actually really predict your business. If you're booked out on install leads, you need more service leads, one phone call, boom, you change some of those things. If with the right company that understands how to run a pay-per-click campaign for an HVAC company. Plumbing and electrical is easy. HVAC's the hard stuff. All right, but you got to track it separately. SEO, track it separately. Everybody's always trying to figure out what is search engine optimization, like what really is it? Well, you can track it, and then you at least know if I don't understand what it is, I can at least understand exactly how it's performing for me so you can hold your marketing companies accountable. Because at the end of the day, again, all we want is the most amount of leads for the least amount of what? Money. This is how we start to know facts, all right? Your Google Maps, whatever you want to call it, Google Business Profile, the name continues to change. You all know it as the map. That's what it is. Track your social separately. OTTs, anybody here doing OTT or connected TV type stuff? How awesome is that becoming? It's really great because now it's essentially TV, but you can dictate where you want that ad to go down to the zip code and track it, everything. So yes, I think it's still great for a branding initiative, but you throw a QR code in that thing and watch how many appointments you start getting booked, scanned off the TV. It's been a pretty cool thing to use. And again, it's measurable so we can figure out is it working or not. Display ads, still good for branding. Your local service ads, like your LSA, if you're not taking advantage of that, it's still the cheapest platform to use right now if it's managed correctly. I can here to tell you, when they first launched that and it was Google Home Services, we beta tested that for them for the first 9 months in 2015, RYNO. So the platform is much different then than it is now. It was better then, it was more exclusive, bigger now. But it's still so cheap that you gotta take advantage of it. And you only spend the money if you get the lead. And then of course you have the CSRs, you gotta pay close attention to them. And we'll talk a little bit about that later, but here's the things I at least wanna give you. So if you wanna take a picture of this screen, this is at least gives you like a little check boxes that you can look at to take back to your marketing company on things that they should be giving to you. There's no reason to not give them to you, okay? This is what you must pay attention to when working with an internet marketing company. Number one, at its basic principle, you have to have monthly reporting, 24/7, and have a contact with somebody from there to talk through your numbers. Somebody to explain things to you, right? To know real numbers. When you're using a call tracking number, you heard me just say, human being call listeners. I have almost nearly 70 people on our RYNO Tracks call listening and reporting team. It is the worst job in my company. I did it in the beginning when it was me. It's literally a team of people listening to your phone calls every single day. Have you ever listened to your own phone calls? You laugh because sometimes you're like, yeah, like you want to walk out that day that you listen to your own phone calls. That is so incredibly healthy to do that because you start to find problems and you can fix those problems quickly just by a human being listening to it. There are pieces of software that they're out there that listen for keyword triggers, but they can't hear tone. They can't hear missed objections. So it's about 60% accurate. That's nowhere near close enough for me to be able to switch from a human being team to that. Would it save me a ton of money? Absolutely. But it's not accurate enough. So I need to know facts. Cost per lead for new business only. I'm going to hit on that in just a minute too. You need to know exactly what new leads are coming in per service. When I say new, can we just agree on what a new lead is? So is a new lead like a phone call that comes in, or a contact form that comes in, a chat that comes in that wants to do business with you? Is that really a lead? Is that really a lead? How many repeat calls you get a month? 80% of the calls that come in, 80 repeat calls? Are they all new leads? Of course not. Yeah, you've been in business a long time. A new lead is a bookable service or install lead that was not a past customer or referral, right? So if we're going to talk about leads, can we talk about that number? That's the number you need to hold the team accountable for, is that number. That's what you're paying them to do. All right, obviously return on investment. Is anybody using like a Service Titan, House Call Pro, Field Edge, anything like that, any sort of field management system? Good for you. You've got your return on investment. You know what the end number is. You know what the revenue is. You can tie that thing right back in to your leads. And there's we're going to hit on that piece in a little bit. A lot of the biggest players that I work with, we work in that little gap the majority of the time. Total lead opportunity and return on investment and closed revenue in the field management system. After-hour leads and revenue. If you're a legit after-hours business, don't just market it 24/7 if you're not legit 24/7, but if you have a human being answering your phone that's in your office anytime after 5 and 9, promise you, there's a lot of good revenue in there. The booking rate's high, the revenue's high, as long as you don't burn out employees by doing it too, because obviously employee retention is key. But again, paying attention to just lead tracking per marketing source. Like these are simple things, everything that you can do with these call tracking numbers. To give you at least a good idea of to how we've done things over the years. Again, this is 14 years of building this thing out, listening to you and your feedback on how can we make this better to serve you. And it looks something like this. It's called a scrub tracking report. At the end of the day, I want everybody to be able to log in and see right on the fly, how many new leads did I get, legit new leads? What was my cost per lead? How many of those leads were service leads? How many were install leads? If you get a parts call, is that a legit lead, a service lead? No, it's a parts call, and you're not doing over the counter parts. Could it turn into a service lead? Potentially, but most of the time it does not. I like to track missed calls. It still blows my mind. Even some of our largest customers, $500 million HVAC plumbing electrical company, still has in the hundreds of missed calls a month. How that happens, I have no idea. But if you've ever missed a phone call and looked at, like I missed 100 phone calls, not all of that was going to be new business, but some of it was, right? And to me, I want to know, well, what did I pay to miss that phone call? But then what was the potential revenue that I just lost because I missed that phone call, and why am I missing a phone call? Was it during hours? Was it after hours? Was it my after hours answering services missing leads? Whatever it is, tracking missed calls and handling it is so incredibly important. You can pick up a ton of revenue just by doing that. Pretty much any call tracking provider now can send you a missed call report automatically as soon as it happens. You got to pay attention to your booking rate per your CSRs or your office manager, whoever's answering the calls. We like to split out repeat and referral business because it had nothing to do with me. Still want you to know the number, but had nothing to do with me. And then, of course, solicitors. Solicitors call in as long as you give us the okay to block it. We block it too. It's a waste of time for me and you. But this right here is exactly what type of reporting you should get. And to give you an example of kind of what that looks like is because they already have these human beings listening to phone calls. So from left to right, they already have date and timestamp, so we can identify was it during hours or after hours. It has the customer caller information, so we know the customer information right there, name, address, phone number. And then the category would be that third column over. What was this? A service, an install, a repeat, a referral? So that way we know exactly what the lead source was or what the lead was. The next one over was this an appointment scheduled, yes or no? Simple as that. What's your booking rate on new leads? What's the booking rate on new business? Because you got to separate that out from overall booking rate to new business booking rate. That does need to be measured separately in order for you to scale a business. Was this a previous customer, yes or no? Simple. That lets us know, is this new? Is this not new? Right? And if you have a good field management software like a Service Titan or whatever, we can pull that stuff straight into the dashboard and it pulls the revenue and attaches it right to the customer name. If not, you have to have somebody manually go in and do it. Totally okay. But you should have somebody doing that so they can start to connect the dots there. And then because the team's listening to it anyhow, they automatically go in and start transcribing out the phone call. So in case you don't want to listen to it, you just want to read a quick shorthand, that's what that big text is on the far right-hand side of the screen. But it says, to give you an example, go down the bottom two orange circles. This was a PPC call that came in. There was one ring. They were on hold for 19 seconds. Taylor answers the phone. This was a new caller. Need a plumber to come out and look at a spout in the bathtub. So everything I needed to know about that was it a new customer, and it came from the pay-per-click campaign. It was a plumbing lead. I got the name. I'll be able to see was it booked. There's a lot of information in that right there, and that all came from one human being listening to a call tracking phone number. So paying attention to the performance and the leads and all that stuff is obviously extremely important, and you have all of it right there. Everybody has access to it. If you're not getting it now, it's not because they don't have the option to do it. It's just not the service that they offer. And I get it, because it takes companies like mine money to pay them for somebody to do it. But guess what? You don't lose very many people. We sit at like a 6% turnover rate of all of our RYNO customers. So we don't lose people because we're looking at facts constantly. We always are paying attention to the performance.
Yeah. So like Chris mentioned, you can be doing all of that, right? Spending your money on all of these tactics. But if you're not really evaluating your ROI, you're missing out the opportunity to see your company's health. So with Chris, let the team know here how to.
Yeah, sure. So this is probably one of the things that I'm going to just breeze through fairly quick, but ultimately we're in the client fulfillment game first and foremost, right? Like you got to get out there, you got to do a good job, you got to put in the right system, you can't oversell, you can't do all the things wrong, and just hope that nobody's going to leave a negative review. Like you got to really focus on client fulfillment and how do you continuously make it better, because you're all in the client fulfillment game. Who's doing it best? And if you're selling the same thing, it can't just be about product. So employee satisfaction is a big piece of this puzzle. In the 14 years of me doing this, the same thing I've heard every single year is the lack of technicians, right? It's no different today than it was then. And I always just say this. It's not a lack of technicians. It's just a lack of technicians that want to work for your company for one reason or another. Maybe they don't even know about the business. But guess what? If you're going to put a posting out there They already know what their job is. Don't even talk about the job. Put it in its simplest form. Talk about why they should come work for you. What's the benefits of them working for you? All right, not even just the pay or the sign-on bonuses. Guess what? You throw an ad up on Indeed. How many other ads you see on that same Indeed for looking for an HVAC technician? 800, 600, 500. We're not in that game. So employee satisfaction is like, you got them, let's keep them. There's things that you can do, but it's something you have to certainly pay attention to is how are they? How do they feel? Whether you like it or not, you got to care about how they feel. And are they getting the education that they needed? Obviously, you need to have some specific KPIs in place. You probably have your own. I've known, having worked with so many all these years, I have an idea of what solid KPIs are, but just easy things that you could check, even if it's every other week, or preferably daily. That's when I look at my numbers on a daily basis. I just want to know how the health of the business is doing so I can catch something quick. All right, and then at the end of the day, like we are in a market share game. You know, the reason that Lennox has used us these past 6 years, is they need us to gain market share for Lennox. That's what I'm in the game of doing. Do you know how I gain market share? It's pretty simple. I gain market share by helping you move as many boxes as you possibly can. The more you purchase, the more you're growing, the more market share you're taking. That's the game I'm in, to help you move as much equipment as you possibly can. So we've done a great job of those things. That's why I continue to come back here. If I didn't, they would never invite me back to talk again. But I always want to know who I'm competing against. So any of you that have gotten to know me know I'm incredibly competitive. I want to win. I know how to win, especially in the digital space. So I'm just going to share this one market since we're here in Orlando. But I like you to know and understand, when I pull this number here, we take the top 25 keywords that we know homeowners are searching for. They're looking for exactly what you do, but not looking for you or you. They're looking for the service that you offer, and they're just trying to find who's my option. All right, that's where the 6 Ps come into play. What are we doing to put on there to try and get them to convert once they get into the site? But there's still a huge number of people searching for exactly what you do with no business name in mind. So in Orlando specifically, 6,840 people a month searching in the month of August. That's a lot of damn people. Like, surely you can snag a little percentage of that. It's a lot of people looking for exactly what you do. People aren't searching for you for fun, right? Nobody really wants to have to call you. And even in the slowest month, February, 3,230. So that's just the top 25 keywords. So what I like to look at is, if I take those top 25 keywords that I know for a fact turn into business for you, who are the main competitors coming up for those keywords today? That's the number. That's what I always want to know, because you have who you think is your top competitors in your market, and then I give you the facts. So in Orlando, is there anybody in here that's in the Orlando market? Got one. Are you prepared? Okay. These are the ones that are getting it done in this market. These are the top 3 in this market that come up for those top 25 keywords. These are the 5%ers that set themselves apart, who take the stuff that they learn, go and implement it, break it, mess it up, fix it, make it their own, and continue to do it again and again and again. So I always want to be in this 5% bracket. I have to know who I'm competing against. So if you're not in Orlando, since there's only one of you that raised your hand, this is my gift to you. Is if you want to pull out your phone and scan this QR code, I'll tell you what it's doing while you're scanning it. I'm not going to sell you anything from this. This is, again, my gift to you. When you scan that, it's going to ask you for 3 markets. I don't even care if you're in a rural market. You put in those 3 markets, and I'll have my team put together that exact same information I just shared with you, who's the top competitors, and they'll send it to you. And they will not ask you for a single thing afterwards. If you choose to connect with them to talk more, that's on you, but they won't ask you for a single thing afterwards. So then you'll at least be able to walk out of here and know who is your top competitors in your market. Everybody good? I mean, if not, you can just come to the booth and scan it again. There's like a couple QR codes there as well. All right, getting close to the end now. We got to pay attention to our people.
That's right. So as you all know, your people are the most valuable assets of your company, right? They're the ones that are in direct contact with your customers. They help you drive your brand forward. They assist you in earning profits, and probably the ones that will influence that customer, to purchase your product or service. So it's really important to pay attention to the culture that you are creating and how you're developing your employees. At Lennox, we do have a few programs to help support you and your employees in creating a culture around of training and development. Lennox U is a brand new talent development tool with a descriptive list of all of instruct-led courses. And there are, again, many benefits of Lennox U. So if you have not checked out the Learning Linux Solutions booth, I would encourage you to go talk to them and check it out. And again, there's more opportunities here at Lennox Live to learn how to develop your people. There are 2 breakouts, Hire for Attitude and Train for Skill, with Ryan Cook and Starla Davis, which I believe is right next after this one. And sorry, we are closed with Gabby and Jenner Bates, so check those out. And in addition to our Linux training, we also offer the SPIF program, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with, the Sales Performance Incentive Fund. And essentially with this turnkey program, your Comfort advisors will receive free money for the equipment that you are already selling. And that's right, free money for the equipment you're already selling. So research shows, and we know the consumers who buy high-efficient equipment are more satisfied. And this program can help motivate your employees and will provide better margins for your company. And the added bonus here is that it does not cost your company anything because Lennox funds it 100%. So I see Lizette in the back of the room, so come see us at the Loyalty and Promotions booth if you want to know a little bit more about the SPIF program. So I know that we talked about a few of the Lennox programs like Lennox U and the SPIF, and now they can help your people. So Chris, what are some other, programs or things that you would tell our dealers when it comes to paying attention to their people?
I didn't know that SPIF meant Salesperson Incentive Fund until like 2 weeks. Anybody has heard the term SPIF, but did you really know what it meant? Just me? By myself here? I thought it had 2 F's too. It only gives 1 F, not 2. Okay, I'm not alone then, that's good. Yeah, so... again, paying attention to culture. One thing that I want to just share with you guys is just some examples of things to kind of at least help with culture. The tighter the team is, the more the more they care about their job, the more they feel cared about, the harder they're going to work for you. Have you learned that by now? And it's already hard enough to keep them. So we want to make sure that they feel good and that you're really being supportive of them. You can do some creative things like we created a good time committee. The good time committee, they're basically it rotates quarterly. They can choose themselves, whoever wants to be on it, up to 5, 6 people, and they come up with fun stuff for the team to do on a monthly basis. So that way they kind of get involved, they're coming up with fun stuff, they're rolling it out themselves, and that way it's just good little team builder things that you can do, like fun office days. It can be something as simple as potlucks, but I think you'll be surprised on how creative some of them get. But it gives them some responsibility, and you'll see that they'll take it and run with it. I am a huge fan of service days. So since I started the business, even though we have 140 people, 14 years later, we still shut the company down 1 day a month, and we give back to the community every single month, 14 years. So it looks a little different with the 140 people. You have to spread it out a little bit. But it's a big way for you to kind of give back to your employees. I'll tell you, this might sound cheesy to you, but if you go and give back together to somebody that has nothing to do with your business, I'm telling you, it builds this bond between them that they want to kind of do more for each other. And if they think they're having a bad day or a shitty week or whatever it is, you go out and serve somebody who's less fortunate, you start to forget about those things. Maybe that didn't matter as much as you think it did. So I'm here to tell you, after doing it, think about it, that's a lot of payroll hours for me to have 0 production from them, right? But it works that well. It's that good. And it feels good to give back. And then, of course, recruiting and referral stuff. You got to pay attention to your recruiting and continuously mixing it up. And obviously, spiffing for referrals is huge. If you're willing to pay somebody some big sign-on bonus, why not pay some big referral bonus for your team to bring in somebody who's qualified? And then, of course, CSR training. I'm going to hit on this for just a second, and then we'll be right at the tail end of this. This is the most ignored position in the company. It's also the highest turnover a lot of times, right? If your CSRs fail, assuming that you are a business owner or you're a GM or whoever you're running it, who's going to take ownership of it? Somebody's got to own this process, right? You got to regularly train these CSRs. And guess what? Sometimes the best thing to do is you have that call tracking number, you have them listen to their own phone call and watch them cringe, right? It's painful to hear your own phone calls. It's painful to hear when you make a miss because they care enough, they're trying to get it done, but sometimes the best way to fix a problem is to have them listen to their own problems. And you got to coach them up. And if you don't want to coach them, there's alternative options. There's coaches you can use, but you got to do something, all right? what do these people make? Like 12, 13, 14, 15. If you're in California, it's a $30 minimum wage, whatever it is. But you got to pay attention to that position because we spend all this money, we're doing all this getting attention, we're paying attention to all these things, and the buck stops at that CSR. If they suck, it's on you. You're the one that has to step up and take accountability and fix it. All right, but it's also good to give praise for good calls. Like, again, people feel good about their job when they feel like they're doing a good job, right? So you want to hear those good calls and give praise as well. I'm a big fan of that. But really, again, I'm going to talk about the answering service. Is anybody in here using an after-hours answering service? Raise your hand. How many of you want to punch them square in the face? Yeah, figured. I've wanted to do that for a long time. So a lot of times it's just finding the least suckiest one that's not going to do a bad job, and you roll with that one. You got to hold them accountable too. I say this like jokingly, but it's super frustrating for me when we spend all this money, time, and effort to bring in this lead volume to have them butcher the lead because they don't care as much as you do. It's total bullshit, and I hate it. I hate it for you, but it happens to this day so frequently, still. But you can hold them accountable too. All right, whatever you got to do, if you make these changes, if you start bringing in some coaching, you got to be consistent with it. And I had the luxury of getting to interview Mike Tyson at our RYNO X event. Vaughn was there for that. And I really hired Mike Tyson to come in and speak to this group for entertainment. Because, like, what value was Mike really going to bring to the group of HVAC and plumbing contractors? And he did say a lot of crazy stuff. Did say some interesting things. That at one point in time, I thought he was going to punch me. Remember that? He gave me the Mike Tyson look. Like, you never know. He's a little bit batshit crazy. So, but he did say one thing that was super profound that I thought was really great, and that was that consistency kicks determination's ass. Like, read that again. Consistency kicks determination's ass. Be consistent. That was the one thing he said that he had done so when he was younger fighting was like he just was, even though if he didn't want to do it, he was consistent every day in doing it. He wasn't getting it perfect every day, but he was at least doing something every day. So I thought that was a pretty profound statement from good old Mike Tyson. You know, and then you got to pay attention to your growth. And at its simplest form, you know, you just got to look at the, if you have a field management software in place, like or a CRM in place or whatever it is, and you can track the leads so you actually know what your legit lead opportunity is, there's a lot of things that you can fix in that little gap. And here's what I mean. So I'll say this. I have the luxury of working with some of the biggest private equity players now in this space because they trust me. After all these years of working with them, they trust me because they know my numbers don't lie. My numbers are facts, and it's predictable. But in that, I can tell you a lot of the times where I've spent whenever I was actually managing accounts early on was in this gap. We would spend every month in this gap trying to figure out what was total lead opportunity that came in and what was actually closed lead and revenue. Because a lot of times what you'll look at is you'll log into your field management system, you'll look at closed revenue, and then you'll hold your marketing agency accountable for that number. That number. Like they had any control over booking your call and selling your call and your average ticket. Like they have any control over those things. They don't. But we're always kind of looking to like, hey, it's not me, it's you. Because guess what? What's the weather like outside right now in Orlando, Florida? It's like what, 70 some odd degrees? Guess what? It's beautiful outside. Whose fault is it in spring and fall when you guys have no leads? Marketing's fault. It's always marketing's fault in spring and fall. All right? I promise you, even in spring and fall, even in your shoulder seasons, there's stuff that you can fix that will increase the business without spending a single dollar more. So what this will do is it's obviously going to increase your sales process. It's going to increase profitability of the business because you're going to start to identify things like, what's my booking rate per service? Is it better? Is one better than the other? So then you know, like, okay, well, I clearly need to train this department because this CSR is good at booking plumbing leads. This CSR is good at booking install leads. This CSR is good at booking service leads. Like whatever it is. Pay attention to them. That way you know facts about who's performing with each service. And then, bless you. And then, I got you. Booking rate per marketing source. We shouldn't be guessing on this either. One might be working better than the other. So if you could take the same budget and shift it to one place where you're booking more calls at a lower cost per lead, why would we not do that? And it might even be in a specific location. You might find out that you're booking better for a service in a specific suburb of the metro area that you're in. If that's the case, why not shift the budget there? Don't spend the dollar more. Focus on where you're good until you get the other stuff built up and worked out. But now you're using this to find facts. There's so much in this chunk right here that you can grow your business without spending a dollar more. So this is the type of stuff that you should be going over on a monthly basis with your marketing. This stuff right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and kick this over to Alex because really all these things we just talked about at the end of the day, like this world needs like some good shit, right? Like it's been crazy this last few years. It's obviously the Ukraine stuff that's going on, like all these insane things that are happening. So the world needs like good, right? Would you agree? We need to like do some good stuff, be good stewards. I will say this, the thing I've experienced over the last couple of years is watching our trades show up and watching everybody reaching out and trying to help one another and inviting you to their shops and trying to give you information and trying to help you. I've seen such an amazing transition of people wanting to help and give back over the last few years. That's super encouraging for me because it's something close to my heart. So Alex, you want to talk about the option here at Lennox?
Yes, so like Chris mentioned, the growth of your company is important, right? But another component is paying attention to giving back, which it's all about your community. And why is that important? Because really helping others in need around you can have a positive impact on your brand, reach your awareness, right?
Yep.
And it shows that you really care for your community's well-being. So creating the opportunity to give back that is connected to your core values, embraced by your employees and infused in your business operations will really result in an authentic program that your customers will want to support. So Lennox is here, and then we can support you and your community through the Feel the Love program. And how is that? So the Feel the Love program is an opportunity to show your homeowners and your community that you care about them and give your employees a sense of pride and purpose. Communities across the U.S. and Canada will nominate deserving families to receive heating and cooling donated by Lennox. And participating dealers, you just donate your time, the installation and the supplies, and these recipients will receive a brand new Lennox unit. So why should you participate? Again, it goes with that, Feel the Love helps you engage with your community while you're helping a family in need, and you're just getting that greatness, local PR right back to your company. Helps you with recruiting and developing the team morale and your employees, and creates a sensitive community with other Lennox dealers. So if you have a family in need in your community that would like to help, you can register for the Feel the Love program this year at feelthelove.com. And I know, Chris, you do a ton of community outreach and giving. So what are some of the other things that our dealers can help with?
Sure. Yeah. Will anybody here participate in the Feel the Love program at all? Thank you. That's fantastic. Good for you. That's awesome. I'll give you a round of applause. I got to see some really great stories from homeowners. Like some of the stuff truly is life-changing. Like, and you catch them right in that moment when like shit's really bad. And so I've seen some phenomenal stories come from this, and hearing from not only the homeowners but also the employees and how it impacted them. Like that's real life. That's good stuff. It is something that I like to do. I'll just share this quickly. There's lots of things that you can do. You really got no excuse to not do anything. Food banks, animal shelters, homeless shelters, Habitat for Humanity, food drives. You can do these from your own office. Like you can make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, put them in a bag, go and take them down and give them to homeless. Like we've done that plenty of time. Elderly home stuff is good. You can create your own thing. Like during the pandemic when we couldn't go see anybody, we decided to take on a animal shelter and redid all their digital marketing for them and did it for the entire year to kind of give back in that way because we couldn't do anything. But I heard a really good, I got a really good piece of information from somebody early on in business, and that was doing good is good business. And again, it's good. It gives people an idea of that might be looking to go to work for another company on kind of what you're all about beyond just heating, air conditioning, or plumbing. This is stuff that you do in your community. It's good to give back. Doing good is good business. So at the tail end of this thing, I just want to do a quick recap on, on paying attention, all right? Making sure that you're paying attention to your lead sources. I cannot stress it enough. All you need is a call tracking number and a human being to listen to the phone calls. I promise you it's worth the time to pay the person to listen to the phone calls because what you make on the back end of that is significantly greater. If it wasn't, I wouldn't have 70 people on that team, right? That's a lot of people listening to phone calls because I know the end result, all right? Paying attention to your average cost per lead, new lead, all right? Making sure they're tracking these booking rates just to see is Jill doing good, is Bill doing good, who's doing a great job, all right? Make sure you hold your CSRs accountable, be consistent. These are all the things that whether you intend on scaling your business, which I would assume that you are, that's why you're here, or selling it, all this stuff is what you need to do, right? But what you can't do is nothing. What you cannot do is walk out of here and do nothing. Even if I bored you for 20 minutes of this thing, 30 minutes, whatever it is, if you at least take the 6 P's away and implement one of those things, do something because complacency has no what? It's right on the screen. Complacency will kill a business quickly. complacency will kill business quickly. You do nothing, and companies like mine, like if I'm a competitor of yours, are moving forward every single day. Because ambition without action is useless, and we take action. And I want you to take action and be a 5%er. So thank you guys so much for choosing our breakout. We're incredibly grateful for you. You have a question?
Dealers have access to this recording?
Would you like access to that recording? We'll make you have access to that recording then. So then you'll just have to, if you want access to this breakout, we did get it on video. I would say just come by the booth in the expo and give us your information. We'll make sure we get it emailed to you. Fair enough? Hey, thank you guys so much. We appreciate you.